Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday 2 o'clock webinar. My name is Chad, and I'll be your host as we discuss remodel design in Envisioneer today. So before I get started with the formal part of the presentation, just want to let everyone know how the webinar works. So what I'll be doing is giving my formal presentation about remodel design. Then after the presentation, I will open up the question panel, which you can find in the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side of your screen, where you can type in any questions that you might have about remodeling and additions and creating those types of drawings. And then I will do my best to answer those questions live online. Also, after the webinar, I will be sending out an email. Included in that email will be a PDF file, and that PDF file you can take and look at on your own time and go over some of the exercises that we cover today in the actual webinar. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started on our remodel design. So in Envisioneer, obviously we can do any types of designs here, and one of the popular ones that we get asked about is how do we do renovation drawings or remodeling drawings, and how do we handle that when we take our drawing and create it and insert it into worksheets. So there's different ways that we can go about that. Today I'm going to go over probably one of the better ways to do that. And so what I'm going to start off here with is with the blank screen, and we're actually going to create a quick little remodel today right from scratch. So we can see on my screen, I'm just going to click on the wall command. It's going to open up the walls on my catalog on the right-hand side of my screen. So we can see all the standard walls that you may be used to are masonry, siding, and stucco being our exterior walls. The interior walls are 2x4, 2x6 interior walls, concrete walls. We've also got a custom folder at the bottom of our wall list. And included in that custom folder, we've got a couple of examples of a demolished wall as well as an existing wall. So what we can do with those two different types of walls is use those as examples to create those walls, and what they're going to do is look different visually on the screen so that we can distinguish what is an existing wall, what is a new wall, what is a wall that's going to be demolished. So if we take a look at the properties of one of those walls, we'll start off with the existing wall. So I'm just going to right-click and edit the element here. So we can see the properties. So what makes this an existing wall? What makes it different than a regular wall? Well, first off, one of the important things is to set this wall to be a general wall. So if we're dealing with quantities, this is very important. When we set it to a general wall, it does not include any framing in the wall. So when we draw this wall into our drawing, because it's an existing wall, we don't want to include any framing because the framing is already there. That's why we are going to turn and make it a general wall. So now that it's set to a general wall, that's the first thing that we can do. The properties, so we can also set how the wall is defined, so we can make it similar to the existing walls. We can make them similar to our new walls. So in this case, we've got a wall with a 5.5-inch core, 3 3/4 inch exterior surface, and a 1-inch airspace. So this wall would be very similar to a brick or stone veneer wall. Obviously, we can create multiple different existing walls if we wanted to, and actually we'll go through the exercise and do that in a minute or so. So the properties we can change our type from frame to general, so we don't include any framing members. The next option is the trim tab. So we can see on this wall that we don't have any base trim assigned to it. We've also seen the list here for our interior surface. Nothing selected for trim. So again, when it comes to calculations, there's nothing that is going to calculate here. No trim for the interior surface. The exterior surface also has no trim included. So we've deleted all of the trim off of this wall, again, for our quantity purposes. And then lastly, again, when it comes to quantities, we've got the option here to uncheck our include in quantities. We do not want this existing wall to show up in our quantity report. Like I said, it's an existing wall. It's already there. There is nothing that we want to include for our quote with this wall when we draw it. So it's a little bit about the existing wall there. Actually, one other thing I want to go over here is the Appearance tab. So we can see here in 2D what we've got for the 2D core, the 2D exterior surface, interior surface, right interior surface, is all of them are using the layer walls existing. And that walls existing is a little bit different, has a little bit different properties than a regular wall is going to have. If we look at the layer properties of that wall, we can see that it is going to show up in a gray color. It's going to be a continuous line, and the line weight is going to be very light. So when we print this out, the walls are going to be light, and they're going to be, the line weight is going to be light as well. So they're not going to be dominant on our plan. The new walls that we want to be able to focus on are going to be more dominant because they're going to be darker, and they're going to have heavier line weights. So that's another difference that we can make and change with our existing wall. If I just close that out, I want to do the same thing here for the demolished wall. I just quickly have a look at the properties of the demolished wall. So this would be a wall that we're going to draw into our plan that is currently in the existing renovation, but it's going to be demolished or going to be removed. So we want to be able to show that in a different way. So double clicking on that, looking at the properties, again we can see this demolished wall has all of the same properties. In this case, again, it's made to kind of match our exterior wall, the stone or brick veneer type wall, 5.5 inch core, 3 3/4 inch exterior surface, and a 1 inch airspace. We can see here, just like the existing wall, it's set to be a general wall and not framed. Again, we don't want to include quantities. If we're going to be getting rid of this wall, there's not going to be any material that we want to put in place of this wall. Trim tab, again, same thing. There is no trim either on the interior or exterior surface of our demolished wall. The quantity tab, again, including quantities is unchecked. We don't want to include anything for quantities. We just want this to simply show up in our 2D view to show that this wall is going to be removed. And then most importantly, when it comes to the demolished wall, is the appearance tab. So what we've actually done with the appearance tab of the demolished wall is set the material for the exterior and interior surfaces to be common glass, so that when we're looking at a 3D view of this wall, yes, it's going to be drawn into our model, but when we go into a 3D view with the walls being made of glass, we're going to be able to kind of see right through them, and it's going to be as if they're not even really there in a 3D view, giving the client a better view of what the addition or the renovation might actually look like. So that's to deal with the 3D view. When it comes to a 2D plan view, just like the existing wall, we've got a separate layer called Walls Demolish that all of our 2D components have set. And again, if we look at the layer properties here for Walls Demolish, we can see that it's set to a green line, and the line type is set to a dash dot line type. So it's going to be a different line type. It's not going to be continuous like all of the other walls are. So that's going to designate it as a demolished wall for us. And again, the line weight being very light, that again, it's not going to be a dominant wall when it gets printed out. It's just going to kind of blend into the background with everything else because the dominant lines will be on the new walls that we draw. So that's some of the differences there between the existing wall and demolished wall. And of course, we can create many different walls if we need to. For example, if I take this existing wall, so what we had set up was for more of an exterior type wall. If I want to take and add a new element based on this existing wall, I'm going to right click on that existing wall, click on Add Element, and what I'm going to do is create a brand new element here. So instead of just existing wall, I'm going to call this 2x4 interior existing wall. So all we want this wall to be is a 3.5 inch core for our 2x4, and we don't want any exterior surface or an airspace. We just want our interior surface width to be 1/2 inch on both sides and a 3.5 inch core, just simply creating an existing wall for a 2x4 interior wall application. Again, because we're creating it from the original existing wall, it's going to take on the same properties. So it's a general wall, not framed. we've also got the option to take the original 2x4 interior wall and change all these settings and base this existing wall on the properties of that wall as well. Trim, again, because we are using the existing wall, the trim is already deleted, not selected, and the quantity as well is set to not be included. One instance where you may want to include quantities, you may want to include quantities in the assembly tab here. Maybe it's going to be an existing wall that the drywall is getting removed, but the project is going to require drywall to go back on to that wall. You can have an existing wall, and perhaps we'll just add on to the end of the name here, drywall. So 2x4 interior existing wall, drywalled. We do maybe want to include the actual drywall on this wall. So I'm going to check include in quantities, and I'm going to add in the 1/2 inch drywall assembly onto this wall. So now when I draw this wall, it's not going to include framing, it's not going to include trim, but it's going to include new drywall for us, even though it's being called out as an existing wall. So a couple different options there as far as how these existing walls work and how the quantities work, because sometimes you may want to include new quantities on existing walls. Click OK, now we can see that that wall is now included in my catalog as well. So what I want to do now is take and create a remodel design here. I'm going to use my existing wall, so I'm going to click on my existing wall. This I know has exterior properties. If you wanted to, we could change the name here to signify or tell us that this existing wall is an actual exterior wall. But in this case, I'm just going to carry on and draw out my building. So I'm just going to eyeball here. I'm not going to go with specific dimensions. And I'll close that off, and we can see how this now is that light gray color that we saw, signifying that this is an existing wall. And as soon as we close it up, it included all of the exterior finishes based on the properties of the existing wall. Now from here, I can take and include my interior walls if I want. So I can come along here and just maybe create a couple of rooms here. And a closet for both sides of those rooms. And we've got a quick little layout of what the existing building might look like. So we can add in windows and doors. So you can, again, just choose the types of windows and doors that you want to insert. Place them wherever you need to. And I'll put in a couple windows there. Doors, same idea, just kind of take and drop in the doors where we need them. And now we've got a quick little layout of the existing house that we're going to renovate. So from here, now that I'm completed everything that I want to add in, the windows are all existing windows, the doors are shown where they're supposed to be shown. I guess I could put on a couple of exterior doors here. Let's just go and do that. I've got an exterior door there and an exterior door here. Obviously, we could flip the hinging and worry about all of that, but for now, I'm going to pretend that this is exactly what the existing house looks like. So I'm going to come into my floor plan sheet, and what I want to do is start to create my floor plans, but what I want to do is include a view that has my original existing house. So I'm going to insert a smart view that shows that. I'm going to take and define my smart view. I'm going to use my filter to turn items on and off. Since this is an existing, I'm going to turn off tags and marks. I don't need to call out what the windows and door sizes are. Elements on terrain, I'm going to turn that off. We could also have added dimensions on there, included dimensions, whatever else needed to be included in this existing drawing we could have included. So in this case, I'm just simply going to have the walls turned on. Click OK. Zoom in. What we see is what we're going to get in this view, and I'm going to take and insert this view now. The other thing we can do is actually give this view a name. So up here at the top right now, this name is 2D plan. To designate it and make it a little bit clearer what this plan actually is, is I'm going to call it existing floor plan and give this view an actual name of existing floor plan. I'm going to take, and now I'm ready to insert this, and I've got my existing drawing placed down on my worksheet. So now one thing I would do from here, so now that I've got my existing done, I've got the floor plan placed in, I could put in any other views that I wanted to show of the existing layout. In this case, I'm done. I just want simply the floor plan to be shown. We can see up here that I've got this drawing named Remodel Webinar. One strategy that I like to use is in case I need to go back to this existing for whatever reason, change something around, maybe grab the original existing view again, create a block from it, whatever I may need to do, I like to do a save as of this drawing just as it is, calling it the existing. So first off, I'm going to save it. It's going to save it as Remodel Webinar. Now I'm going to come in and do a save as, and I'm going to call this Remodel Webinar Edition, for example. Click and save that. So now I've got a copy of my existing. Now I'm creating a brand new drawing here that's going to include all of the new features that I want to add as well. So I'm going to flip back to model. And what we're going to do is pretend that we want to put just a little sunroom out the back of the building here. So I'm going to come in, take and draw my walls. Now instead of using the existing walls in this case, I'm going to come up and use the brand new walls. So we're going to pretend we're going to use brick walls. Again, I'm just going to eyeball. I'm not going to worry about actual dimensions here. And I'm kind of going to come in and draw in the new walls that we want to draw. So we can see the difference there between existing walls and new walls. We can see the difference in definition. I can take and add in new windows and doors if I want. And maybe we'll add a French door or a patio door to the back. Place that in. There we've got the new sunroom that we're going to put in. The other thing we can do here is if we take this wall and this wall, maybe we want to take these walls right out and have this room open to the entire building. So these walls are going to become demolished. So use my Shift key to select them both at the same time. I'm going to right-click to bring up my options. And what I want to do is replace those walls. I want to replace the original 2x6 brick wall with a demolished wall. Choose Replace. It brings up my wall catalog. There's my demolished wall that I can use and take and click and define that. And now if I click off them, we can see that those are dashed lines. And now looks like that wall is going to be demolished. The other thing I can do is the door itself, is take and change that. So just like the walls, we can set up demolished doors as well. Or the other thing we can do is, if this is going to be project specific, I can take and edit the properties of this door, come into the Appearance tab, and take and change all of these components. So I selected the top one, door leaf, held down my Shift key, selected the last one. Selects all the components here. I want to keep it on the doors layer. I want to keep it red. But I've got the option here to simply just change the line type for the components. And I'm dealing with this door only. In this case, I want to go to dash dot, same thing as my demolished wall. Set that as my line type. Click OK. And now we can see that that door is now looking like it needs to be demolished as well. The other thing I want to do is this wall here. I want to take and make it a demolished wall. So the only demolished wall we've got in our catalog right now is this exterior type wall, the 5.5-inch core. This wall here is a 3.5-inch core. I'm just going to take and double click this wall or this wall segment. And I want to make it a demolished wall as well. So since I selected this wall in the drawing, I'm changing the properties of this drawing only. I'm not changing my catalog, not adding a new wall here. I'm just dealing with the properties on this drawing. So demolished 2x4 wall. Again, I want to keep it as general. I don't want to include any framing. I want to keep my dimensions 3.5, half inch. The trim tab, I'm going to come in, make sure everything's deleted. Looks like it is. Quantity tab, in this case, I don't want to include my drywall on these walls. In the appearance tab, this is where I'm going to come in, and anything to do with 3D, exterior, interior, and openings, I want to change and make the material a glass material so that we can see through this wall. Come down into my groups, glass and mirror, and just like the other one was using, the common glass, I'm going to use that again as well. Then my 2D core, since I'm creating a demolished wall, I want to change, take and change these components from an existing walls layer to a demolished walls layer so that I get my dash dot line type. Click OK. Now I've edited the properties of just this one wall only. I can take and select that, and there we can see that that wall is demolished as well. Lastly, I'll just quickly do this door again as well. Choose all of the items here and just quickly change the line type to be dash dot. Click OK, and there now we can take and see what exactly is going to be demolished, what's existing, and what is new. So now if I come back into my floor plan page, maybe I want to add my proposed new addition onto the same page here. Again, I can add in dimensions, I can add in everything else that may need to change about the floor plan itself. Come in and insert my view. I'm going to come into my view filter, turn off my terrain, turn off those tags and marks. Again, I don't want to show them. I can notate them individually if I want, or add them in and delete them out, but in this case I'm just going to turn them off. Turn off my floors, so again it's just going to be the walls that are showing. Click OK. I'm going to zoom in here. What I see is what I'm going to get on my page, and take and insert that drawing, and I'm just going to put it in beside the other one. So now we can see the original existing and then the new proposed with the back addition, as well as the demolished walls in there. Okay, so now we've got that, we can take and save this. It could be our save it as our new drawing. Just want to show a couple of other things here, and also how to update some of those views. So if we make changes to our model, so if a customer comes back and says they want other walls demolished, or they want to add in some new interior walls, whatever the case may be, since we've already inserted that smart view, we want to be able to update that view as well. But first off, I'm going to insert a roof and go over how we might handle the framing members and quantifying the members in a roof. So I'm going to take and insert a roof by perimeter. I'm going to assume that this roof is going to over the entire perimeter of the proposed addition. So I'm going to add it on this time rather than before when I just had my original building. Come in, just grab the roof that we want, add it on, and there I've got my roof. If I take and display my framing, we can see that we've got roof framing included for the roof as well, including over the existing area. So again, since this is a renovation and we might be concerned with quantities, we want to be able to just frame the back portion or the new portion only. So back to display all but framing. The way we're going to handle showing just the framing on this back part is we're going to convert this roof to surfaces. So what that's going to do is make each of these individual surfaces, it's going to make them individual. So each of the planes is going to make them individual surfaces. So right now when I click on a roof, it's the entire roof that's affected. So what I want to do is select the roof, right-click, brings up my options. I've got an option here to convert roof to surfaces. When I do that, it asks me to pick an actual surface to use. We've got our different roof surfaces here. Choose the asphalt shingle roof surface and click OK. And now we can see as I click on portions of the roof, we can see that each plane is now its own separate individual entity. So now what I can do is take these planes. So I can take that, hold down my Shift key, and select all 4 of those planes. So these would be dealing with the existing roof. I can right-click, come into the properties, and I can change around the properties. I can change the shingles. I can make them just a simple color if I wanted to distinguish, again, what's new and what's existing. I can take and change the framing specifically is what I wanted to come in here for. So in this case, no, I'm not including the framing. Nothing's going to be included for those surfaces. The Appearance tab, again, like I said, we could take and change the surface rather than being a shingle. I could come in here, choose a material, and maybe I'll just make it a simple color, cool white, and click OK. So now we've edited the properties of those 4 surfaces. Now I want to come into these 3 new surfaces that are going to be part of the new roof. Right-click, come into the properties. I want to keep them looking like a shingle, but what I want to worry about here is the framing. In this case, yes, I do want to include in framing. And I'm just going to change this to show as a rafter. And the phase is going to be the roof framing phase. So now this is going to get included. The framing is going to be included in my quantities. Also the quantity tab, which actually reminds me, in the last step I did not come into the quantity tab to uncheck including quantities. In this case, for the new roof, we do want to include all of these options. We can click OK. And now we've got just framing in this area only. Again, back to the 4 of our existing model, the 4 planes. If I can get that last one selected, there we go. Right-click, come into the properties, come into the quantity tab, and in this case, I'm going to take and uncheck included quantities because I don't want any of these quantities to show. Again, just like our existing walls, we do have the option to include some of these things. So maybe on this roof, maybe you don't need all of the underlay, the sheathing, things like that. But maybe you want to reshingle the whole roof while you're doing the new addition. You could take and have this including quantities and just remove some of the assemblies that you don't need. In this case, the sheathing I don't need. I'm going to pretend I don't need any roof surface components. I don't need any soffit and fascia or framing nails. And I'm just going to remove the measurements as well. So essentially for the 4 existing surfaces, if I wanted to reshingle the entire roof, in my quantities I can have just the shingle roof surface assembly on there, and that's going to calculate shingles for this portion of the roof and everything for the addition portion of the roof. So now when we come back into our floor plan, we've updated our Smart View. We've updated our model. Now we want to update our Smart View. We want to include the roof on there and show the roof. One way to do that is if I come into my Smart View dialog here, I've got an option here to update Smart View. So any Smart Views that are inserted, this will globally update them. So we can see here a list of the different Smart Views that are inserted into my plan. I want to take and update these Smart Views because I've made a change in my model. But in this case, the existing floor plan, I don't want to change. I don't want to update with any of the model changes. I want to make sure that I uncheck that. And now you can see why we strategically called that existing floor plan. It's because now I can see that if we had multiple Smart Views inserted, it's pretty clear as to which one we don't want to update. So in this case, I'm updating simply just the 2D plan, which is the secondary model with our addition. Take and update it, and there we are. That now shows the roof properties. And then again from here I can take and define Smart Views further. If I wanted to put in an elevation view, let's go into a right elevation and take and insert that in a pattern mode. And there we go. Now we can start taking and inserting our different views. So now that we've got all of that, that's essentially everything that I wanted to go over as far as how our existing versus new plans goes. Obviously, from here in our worksheet, we can take and add in notation as we need to. We can specify existing plan. We can specify existing walls, the walls to be demolished, specify any of that information. So that's how that can all be done. So with that, basically just to quickly review what we've got here set up in our wall dialog. We do have predefined demolished walls as well as existing walls. And we created brand new walls as well, so we can add new elements. We added in a 2x4 interior existing wall. We also left the drywall on that existing wall so that when it came to quantities, we were quantifying drywall, pretending that we're going to need new drywall on the existing walls as well. Then we also added in our demolished walls, or sorry, we added in our addition, added in and created demolished walls, our dashed lines for our doors, and then we inserted the different views. When we inserted our existing view, we did a save as so that we've got a copy of our original existing drawing, and now we've got a brand new drawing with the proposed changes and all of the different views, including the existing view, inserted as well. And of course, when we make any changes and we go into update our smart views, if we're using the global smart view update, where it's going to update every smart view, we want to make sure that we uncheck our existing floor plan so that it stays as the original existing floor plan. So with that, I'm going to take and open up the question panel. So feel free to type in any questions that you might have, and I will do my best to answer those questions live right now. Okay, I don't see any questions there yet, but just leave that panel open for another minute or so. Question period is a great time during the webinar so that you can get any clarification, get any of those questions asked. It's one of the great things about these webinars being live. Also, just again, talk about the email that I will send out afterwards. In that email will be a PDF file that will discuss some of the things we talked about today, and you can go over and do some exercises on your own. Also included in that email will be a username and password. The username and password can be used to get into the webinar archive where you can view the past webinars, including this webinar. They all get recorded and eventually put up to the website that you can take and check those all out. So again, feel free to type in any questions. I still don't see any there. Hopefully that means everyone is clear on how to do additions. Either that or I've totally confused everyone. And if so, sorry about that. No, but anyways, I'll leave the panel open for another minute, type those questions in, and I'll do my best to answer those live right now. Okay, so a question here. When removed walls are replaced with a structural header, how is that shown? Okay, so I believe what the question is, if we look at this wall here and we assume that this was a load-bearing wall and now needs to be replaced by a beam so that it holds up the ceiling or whatever load might be on this wall. What we could do from here is actually take and use our member tool. So we take and use our members. If we wanted to multiply 2x piece of lumber, we've also got steel beams in here, engineered lumber, whatever your header might be made of, you can take and specify it here. So let's pretend we're going to be some 2x10 here. Before I insert, I'm going to take and right-click. When I right-click, I've got an option here for advanced members. And using advanced members, what I can do is set some general properties of this member before I actually insert it. So if this was a sloping member, which in this case it's not, it's going to be flat, I could set the slope of the member here. In this case, I'm going to use a 2x10 SPF. We've also got the option here to how many members do we want to use. In this case, I'm going to make this let's pretend it's a 3-ply beam. So I can set the number of members to 3. As I draw one member, it will draw the other 2 members to create a 3-ply member. Reference point, so when I insert this beam, where is it referencing? So the top, I can set it to the center, I can set it to the left or to the right when I draw it in. Different options there. Quantity info, so I can change my quantity info, so the usage instead of framing member. Maybe if I want to call this beam girder or girder beam, I could take and select that usage. So in my material list, it's going to show up as girder beam. And maybe instead of in my wall framing, I could take and put it in my ceiling construction. So instead of wall framing, I'm going to take and change it to ceiling construction, so that this gets applied in the ceiling construction section. Now I'm ready to insert it. The other thing I can do is set the base height here. So if I want to set the top of the beam up at the 8'1" location, I can type that in, and then the key there to accept that value is pressing the tab key. Tab key accepts that 8'1" value. Now all I'm going to do is simply come in here and draw in that header where it needs to go. Simply click the 2 points. Now I've got that header in there. And if we look at a 3D view, I'm just going to place a camera in here. We can see what that header looks like. So we can see our existing walls. I don't really have a ceiling in here, but we can see the demolished walls. We can see how they're glass and we can see through them. And we can also see the header that just got put in there and replaced the wall that we removed. So hopefully that answers that question. Hopefully that's what we were talking about there. Okay, so that's the only question that I see. With that, I guess we'll sign off here for the webinar today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me, and enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the week, and hope to see you next week. Talk to you later. Bye now.